the Lord is blessing me right now, right now. Oh, the Lord is blessing me right now, right now. You know, He woke me up this morning and started me on my way. Oh, the Lord is blessing me right now, right now, right now.
Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States and seat of world power. Many know the city for its beautiful monuments, museums, and parks. Yet, in Washington, as in other cities, there is another reality that is harsher, less attractive. This reality includes people experiencing tremendous brokenness in their lives, people who are considered undesirable by the wider society. This other Washington can be found clustered in pockets throughout the city. In one of these neighborhoods, Adams Morgan, a network of church-based ministries called Jubilee Ministries is at work.
We come out of a common foundation which originated in the Church of the Savior and has grown in a whole network of expressions.
The Church of the Savior was founded in Washington by Gordon and Mary Cosby in 1947 and has focused its efforts here for over half a century.
The central compelling focus of the Church of the Savior has always been the biblical notion of call. Biblical call has two foci. First, the deepening of our love for God and our belonging to God. And second, out of that love and belonging, a caring for and a serving the outcast, the weak, the defenseless, the unwanted, the broken, the victims of society. As women and men have worked with our call, they have come to the awareness that this was the group that they especially wanted to serve, a group which is precious to God and deeply loved by God. And they have formed structures through which this caring and this serving could take place. And collectively, we call those structures Jubilee Ministries.
The Church of the Savior mission groups focused on 4 general areas of community assistance in Adams Morgan. These areas were chosen because they significantly affect the quality of people's lives. One of the first missions of the Church of the Savior was the formation of a coffee house on Columbia Road called the Potter's House.
It would be a place where you had warmth, camaraderie, and not overt a lot of formal religion, but a place for meeting, but it was a place where you would know what the Christian gospel was. So we opened it in 1960, and we've been there ever since. And we did not know that it was for anything except conversation, whereas Elizabeth O'Connor, our writer, used to say, this is a place where non-religious people can come to ask religious questions.
The Potter's House served as the seedbed for the formation of most of the other mission groups that emerged. Here, people gathered to talk, pray, worship, and discern how they were called to respond to the needs of the people in the neighborhood.
And then we watched the called people come, and we watched the missions burst forth. Perhaps the first one was Jubilee Housing.
The people here who care in this community, and most of them from Church of the Savior, have looked at the needs, and where there's a need, they've tried to create something to meet that need. And the first thing that they saw was the need for affordable housing.
The apartment buildings in the area were owned often by what we unkindly would call slumlords.
It was drugs every night, every day. It was 24 hours a day it was happening. Police was constantly around all the time. And my son, he was like 3 at the time, and I didn't want him around it.
We didn't want to be landlords, But the only way we could keep the poor people from being evicted from those buildings was to buy the buildings.
We have about 850 people living here at Jubilee now, about 350 units.
Jubilee housing rent is subsidized, is much lower than what you would pay for the Dorchester.
You get people who come out of the shelter, their life has been destroyed. After being in Jubilee and getting a job, they can rebuild a life and have a future.
They soon recognized, once they had the apartment buildings, that the residents needed access to other services. And so Jubilee Jobs was started as a result of people in Jubilee housing needing jobs.
At Jubilee Jobs, the focus is always on the goal of employment and the positive gifts and skills that each applicant brings to the community. Not only does each applicant receive direct personal counseling and placement assistance, that help is available for subsequent career development as well.
To this minute, it's one of the most remarkable job placing agencies anywhere.
Since 1981, we've placed over 10,000 people into jobs. It was essentially people unemployed and who had some issues in their background that made it difficult for them to link with the workplace. They needed some help preparing. That's what we do.
The process begins with a week of preparation for the expectations of the job market. Being on time, dressing properly, preparing a work history, keeping a positive attitude.
People don't have things. You don't have clothes. You don't have interview outfits. We work with you with that.
So during the work readiness week, they will have come to 5 appointments on time with the right dress, right attitude. And so by the end of the week, we can really vouch for their reliability, punctuality, and attitude.
Employers are willing to work with Jubilee Jobs to give applicants another opportunity because they know backgrounds and references are checked, skills verified, and applicants have demonstrated their eagerness to do their very best.
Colonial Parking was our first employer that hired one of our job seekers.
We have over 130 parking facilities in the metropolitan area. Jubilee candidates come with a resume in hand. They are dressed very impressionably for a job interview. They're very well spoken. They have a definite goal in mind as to what they want to do and where they want to go.
If they're hiring not out of charity but out of business, that's good because we want to serve them at that level.
Then we discovered that the people that we worked with housing so often had health problems. Out of that came the amazing growth of the clinic, the Columbia Road Health Services.
Our mission is to serve the poor, disadvantaged, and uninsured of this neighborhood. The wars in Central America during the 80s drew large numbers. As people came, they came with little knowledge of the language, little knowledge of how to use medical systems, poverty, and lack of insurance. Columbia Road Health Services fit that need.
Este es para la alergia, es para calmar todos estos problemas que tienen la nariz, picazón.
When one is working with issues of poverty, you can't just treat blood pressure. You have to look at the fact that the person might be being evicted tomorrow. Fear, distrust, isolation, that's all very much a part of being poor, particularly if you don't speak English or if you've had bad experiences elsewhere. Most of our medical assistants are bilingual. Many of them come from Latin America. I think that we strive for personal relationships with our patients. I feel like people feel they can approach me and do approach me, and to me that's a blessing. I'm biased, but I think that our care is excellent because we care.
The Columbia Road Health Services later turned into the miracle of Christ House.
Dr. Janelle Getchus, medical director of Columbia Road Health Services, had been treating homeless people from the doorstep of this building, which was at that time dilapidated. One night, a man she'd been treating for pneumonia died. Dr. Getchus responded by forming a mission to serve homeless people who were too sick to be on the street and required 24-hour nursing care. With a generous donation, the building was purchased, gutted, and renovated. Like all Jubilee ministries, Christ House depends heavily on volunteers, who make significant contributions of time and talent. Bernita Brooks has been volunteering for more than 14 years.
When I first came and I really found out what was going on at Christ's House, I just got hooked.
I'm a former homeless person myself. I lived on the streets for many years until my health failed me and I had to come to Christ's House. So 90% of the patients that come through here, I know them. I'm on the leadership group at the Kairos program. I'm also on the board of directors of the Kairos House. I'm around all the time and I get to see the patients as they come in.
We've had very young and we've had some very elderly, very ill. And they come in here and they get the treatment that they need. We have staff here, doctors and nurses, on duty 24 hours a day. They have a boutique where they can get clean clothing. They get 3 wonderful meals a day. When they came here, a lot of them just didn't believe that there was any place for them or that anybody cared about them. It had been years, I'm sure. And when they finally got around to realizing that they were cared for and that they were loved and people wanted to help them, it was hard for them, but they began to slowly blossom out. For a lot of them, it was a miraculous thing.
Good Shepherd is about compassion.
Good Shepherd's primary mission is, first of all, to just love the children in this neighborhood. For many of them, they've witnessed violence that has really harmed their souls, I believe. We've had counselors come in and say they recognize signs of post-traumatic stress syndrome in the children, because we're in a culture that says to the children, don't bother. You're inner city, primarily African-American children. The statistics are against you, and the kids have absorbed that message already at age 9, at age 7, but that is just not true.
Good Shepherd is about commitments.
They do have the capacity to make choices, and they do have the capacity to live out daily disciplines, really, of showing up when they say they will, practicing when they say they will. For a portion of every day, we are committed to create spaces that are safe and that are challenging and that bring forth what's possible in the children.
I thank God for giving me Miss Patricia and Miss Laverne. I thank God for my parents.
Good Shepherd is about connectedness.
This is like a place for Good Shepherd kids to learn a lot about God and get closer to God. Also have fun there, going to swimming, camping, hiking, campfire. I started getting used to it and started getting to know a lot about God.
Every child has made a tutoring commitment, and that means showing up on time, coming with a good attitude, bringing supplies, connecting with a tutor in a respectful way.
Good Shepherd is about creativity and recreation.
Even in the darkness of the world has a lot of beauty. And beauty is expressed through music at our music center. And beauty is expressed through the creative arts of painting. At the teen center, someone comes in and works with the children on painting.
They get to participate in different community things, like go over to the Nazareth house and help cook dinner for the people that live there, or they'll go over to the community garden to work in the garden.
It's showing up day after day and reminding the children that we are really for them.
The Family Place grew out of an awareness of problems observed by Dr. Ann Barnett, a neonatal neurologist at Children's Hospital in Washington, D.C. Dr. Barnett noted that the lives of many families could be improved if they only could get adequate prenatal care and education.
We envisioned a center, a place where families could get together, share their stories, play with one another's children, get to appreciate the developmental progress of their own children, and support one another. And where staff could also be advocates, helping people get the services they need in order to raise their children. I certainly didn't know how to start a community center, but I received a great deal of encouragement support, mentoring, guidance, inspiration from the whole Church of the Savior ambiance.
Family Place has a couple of core programs, which are prenatal education and parenting education, and we do a lot of referrals outside. We also offer ESL, which is English as a Second Language classes, and we're beginning to put in place a job readiness program. However they find out about the Family Place, mostly through word of mouth, they'll come here because they know that when they get here, that it's like a home away from home.
Elizabeth O'Connor, another member of the Church of the Savior, had a vision of a place where elderly people could live with safety, comfort, and dignity. In this center, Sarah's Circle, residents and seniors from around the neighborhood can come together to experience community.
Growing old is not a time to just sit back in a rocking chair and contemplate. It's a time for growth and for development, for identifying talents and gifts, and for giving back to the community. And that's what we try to do here at Sarah's Circle.
It's a place where older people can grow together and be happier together and not be expected to sit in a corner somewhere and die.
And they have an outreach program. A lot of the people come from different areas close by. They have a van that goes and picks them up, and they come for breakfast or lunch and special activities.
The staff is real interested in us. That's one thing. They see we've got our, because we are older, they see we've got Will's Road. They have programs down here to help us. We have a nurse and a doctor that come and give programs on things like high blood pressure. If we don't see a person, we go and check on them. The residents here are actually family.
The seniors here have adopted a 1st and a 5th grade class. Those kids come over here once a week for activities.
They come from Cook School right next door. It's just a natural, and gives the seniors an opportunity to interact with little kids and see what's going on in their lives. The creativity of the seniors comes out when the kids are here. They love to tell stories. It's wonderful for the children to meet people 95, 96 years who've lived so long and have great stories to tell.
See, we actually have everything here that could possibly be given. Why would we want to move anywhere else? We know here we're cared for.
Addiction was the thing that kept anything from working. So I suppose our biggest and most demanding programs now have to do with the Samaritan Ends programs, which is on a lot of levels, but starting with addiction and going on through never drops people by the wayside.
Evangeline was a hardcore addict. I went to cocaine, on the methadone, to pills. Then you always buy your beer or whatever alcohol, and this is you to enhance it. To take one look at her the day that I saw her and she was sitting on the couch, I felt like she was not gonna make it. As far as sticking a needle in my arm, I did that.
Samaritan Ends is a mission designed to help people, like Evangeline, who want to recover from their addiction.
Now we have in place a complete continuum that can take a person that wants to have a different life, and it can begin at the treatment phase.
The clients first come, I explain to them, this is a 28-day intensive recovery program, right? And for 28 days you have to come, you're in-house, and you have to sit in these chairs.
We have housing for them at that critical transition point where they go from a contained 28-day environment out into the real world.
It is the place where they actually begin to start practicing the new habits and the new skills that are necessary for self-sufficiency.
If I had left here after 28 days, being honest with you, and went back to Baltimore, it just would have been the same old, same old, same old.
And then we have in place the longer-term drug and alcohol-free housing that's decent and affordable.
It's like, to me, a little efficiency in an apartment because you got your refrigerator, you got your TV, your phone, and you take care of it, and you pay your bills.
We did a very simple survey of everyone that had been at and moved from Lazarus House or Tabitha's house over the initial 5.5-year period. And what we found was astounding. We found that 96% of men and women were living drug and alcohol free.
It's like a budding flower. You know, you start off, you plant the seed, that's at the first stage, which is the intense recovery. You water the seed, is at the second stage, which is the transitional. And the third stage is the SROs, is what you see that flower grow.
I work in a nursing home, I do housekeeping. I just started computer class.
Church of the Savior's been around for 50 years, and the Festival Center is the inheritor of that tradition of teaching and mission and call and service. It's a place of meeting. We have the Servant Leadership School here. It's also a place of healing. All of the office space on the second floor was taken down and the intensive recovery program was born. It's also a place of hospitality. Our folks work very hard at creating a place where people will be welcome. We have folks literally from all over the world who come here really hungering for more of a sense of what it means to be church, what that inward journey and outward journey is really all about.
Addressing that hunger is the core mission of the Servant Leadership School, whose classrooms are in the Festival Center. In this People Seminary, thousands of people from all walks of life come together to learn what it means to follow the servant Jesus. The school grows out of the Church of the Savior's tradition of the schools of Christian living.
Those schools of Christian living were thought to be necessary because of the church's notion that you need to have an inward journey and an outward journey.
The only prerequisite, so to speak, is an interest in your spiritual journey and also a concern for the poor.
What I see happening in the Servant Leadership School is an opportunity to offer a diversity of approaches, specifically as it relates to trying to deepen our understanding of the servant leadership model.
Jubilee staff and volunteers agree that work with these sorts of ministries feels rewarding and worth it.
I have enabled some people who wouldn't get health care in other places to get it here. That knowledge is worth more to me than any $80,000 salary.
The bottom line is all of us, we say we are Christians, then we have to walk like Christ. And Christ came to help the people who were downtrodden, people who were down and needed raising up. And this is what all the ministries are all about.
There are any number of ways that people can participate in the work of realizing the Jubilee Vision. One is by being a volunteer, another is by participating as a staff person. People are very important in their contributions that they make to these ministries.
Already, there's a trickle of hope which is being felt by those who are paralyzed by despair. As you consider your own call, you may be encouraged to want to help us with our collective vision. And then the trickle will become a mighty stream of hope. And those on the outside, one by one, will come inside and be forever at home.
I have other people that care, you know, for my child just as much as I do. The church, the after-school program, the school. It's just a blessing to be in this community.
At the beginning of high school, my GPA was like a 1.0 or something.
She had a 3.1 grade point average last semester.
I haven't chosen my school yet, but I want to be a doctor.
You know how that story says, your future's so bright you gotta wear shades. That's the way I look at it.
While I'm on my Christian